Have you ever felt a looming curiosity about teacher portfolios? You know you're going to need one, so you start Googling, how do I build a teacher portfolio? It keeps bringing up tools you can use. You've looked at a few examples online, and you've even asked that question in Facebook groups, but you're still feeling no closer to getting your answer. Does that sound familiar?
Hi, I'm Selena Woodward, and I'm an English and drama teacher, university lecturer, and with Edufolios.org, a big-time reflective practitioner. So how can reflective practice help you grow your teaching skills, fall in love with your profession all over again, and help you nail accreditation and teacher registration with less stress and less work? Well, this is the Reflective Teacher Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Reflective Teacher Podcast. As always, I am your host, accreditation coach Selena Woodward. How are you doing? Now, I'm really curious, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I hope you are, I want you to type an answer for me in the comments. When you do Google, how do I build a teacher portfolio? What is it that you're actually hoping will come up? Let me know in the comments below. You go to Google, you go to a Facebook group, you go somewhere to find out how to build a teacher portfolio. What is it that you are expecting or needing or wanting the answer to? Because actually that question is really broad, and today's episode is about helping you understand how to ask smaller questions that might get you the answers that you really need. So in the comments below, share with me what you're looking for. Is it that you're looking to find tools that could build you a site really, really quickly? Because that's what usually comes up when you Google. Is it that you're looking to find examples of teacher portfolios? Because you're hoping that by having a look at a couple of them, that will bring you some clarity about the expectations around teacher accreditation and portfolio building. And you're really hoping that that will bring you some peace or some understanding of what this all involves. Is it that when you ask that question, you're looking to understand the process of accreditation? What is it? Let me know in the comments below this video. When you do so, you're going to find that you're definitely not the only one with that question. Trust me, because creating evidence in a portfolio is a wide open task, which is why that question doesn't always bring you the right answers. Because often when we're asking that question, we're already full of doubt. We're already full of wondering that might be bringing up a bit of fear and some stress. Okay, goodness me, stress around this situation. It's a beautiful, magical beast, stress right now, isn't it? We've got quite enough of that already. Thank you very much. So this podcast today is about helping you remove some of that stress by thinking about the question that you are asking. I want to help you get the answers that you actually want when you ask that question. Now, obviously, the first thing you need to do if you're curious about teacher accreditation is subscribe to the Reflective Teacher Podcast, whether that's on Google, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Subscribe to this channel, subscribe, because we have 136 episodes and counting on the subject of teacher accreditation. There's got to be something in there for you right now to answer your questions. And if you head to edufolios.org/podcast and scroll down, there's even a search box that you can use to type in a keyword or a question and see if I've already answered it in one of the podcasts. So there's one way straight away of connecting with some of the answers that you're looking for. What you're likely to get, as we've already said, when you Google questions like, how do I build a teacher portfolio, is ads for companies who want you to use their website building tool to create a system. Now, obviously, the best online tool for building your portfolio, of course, is Edufolios. I'm going to say that because I co-created it. It's created by an Aussie teacher, and it contains tools to help you understand the standards and help you build your portfolio. Not like a Wix or a Weebly or a OneNote or a Word document or a PowerPoint, which have none of those bespoke tools in it. Okay, but that might not even be what you need. I know that there are users of Edufolios who have, let's see, automatic heat mapping tools. They have a standards guide built in there. They have all sorts of tools to support them, but they're still needing more. And that's, of course, where I come in as the coach and the accreditation guide, okay? So I want to start by thinking about what that question actually means. So we know what tools we can use, Edufolios, obviously, but if we're not using that, that's okay. That's okay. So what is it beyond the tool that you need to know? Well, I think the first question that you need to ask yourself is actually about the standards themselves. So first of all, are you really clear about the teaching standards? And by that, I mean, if you were to look at the teaching standards and explain to someone how they work, could you do that confidently? Do you understand why there are 4 career stages? Do you understand about focus area descriptors and how they fit into standards and how those standards fit into domains? Do you know how to use the standards to really empower your practice so you can reflect deeply and, of course, therefore, hit the needs of any accreditation process there is on the planet for Australian educators? Do you confidently know how to do that? Is the answer a resounding, hell yes, I do? If not, then this is where you need to start. It's really important that you understand how the standards work, whether you're going for accreditation for your GTPA or at uni or all the way up to lead. Why? Because if you don't, you're going to end up doing a few things. Trust me, I see it all the time. Number one, you are going to spend a long time getting your head around the standards whilst you're also trying to create evidence. It's going to be double the cognitive load as you try and connect something you're not very familiar with something in your practice. So that's going to take you longer if you don't take the time to get to know them. 2, if you don't really understand what the standards are actually for and what they're asking you to do, the stories that you do write, the evidence that you create, the artifacts that you choose are very likely to be wrong, not quite aligned in some ways. And that's the number one reason that people find that they don't pass, particularly at HA or lead, because they've slightly misunderstood this process of using the standards and the story and who it is they're meant to be talking about. 3, you're going to end up stuck in a horrible nightmare of ticking boxes and jumping through hoops because you're focusing on the standards first and you're trying to make your practice fit some descriptors that you don't really understand. So that's going to feel really painful. Has anyone been in that situation? Let me know in the comments if you have. Have you been trying to do that? I see it all the time in Facebook groups. Oh, I'm really stuck. What have you done for standard 4.2? Wrong way round, really long way round. And that's the 4th thing. If you don't understand the content inside the standards and how to use them to empower your practice, how to use them to really understand what you're doing at any career stage, you are going to go around this the long way around, ticking boxes, jumping through hoops, and feeling really, really turned off by the entire process. Because who here actually cares about the standards? No one. What we actually care about is our kids, our colleagues, and the impact that we're having. And that is what the standards are for, to help us understand that. But if we've pushed that to one side because we don't understand that's what they're for, and we don't understand how to use them in that way, we're stuck in this awful paper trail and it's disgusting and horrible and ugh, right? So this is why when you ask a question like, how do I build a teacher portfolio? The first thing you need to understand is the standards and how they work. Because if you do, then you can start creating evidence in your portfolio that is well aligned to the standards that you're needing to meet right now, actually shows you lots and lots of wonderful moments of your practice that you can celebrate, supports you to understand where the challenges are in your practice, what you need to do next to grow, what professional development you need, supports you to understand what your strengths are so you can then very highly accomplishedly, there's a new verb I've made, go and support another educator by sharing your knowledge and expertise. All of this comes from being able to work with the standards. And there's a very negative culture around accreditation. It's a very overwhelming process for many because they don't get to know the standards in this way. I can remember in September, in the last cohort of the evidence engine, one of my students called Beck said to me that she's been really surrounded by a lot of negativity. Why would you bother learning about the standards? Why would you bother reflecting with them? Why would you bother doing HA or lead? It's a load of work and you don't get anything in return. And that's really hard if you're someone who is dedicated to measuring your impact and are really curious about how the standards can support you with that. Of course, you're going to be disheartened if you're surrounded in this awful negativity. But what Beck got by completing the evidence engine was complete clarity over the standards and their real purpose, and a heck of a lot of confidence that enabled her to stand up and say, no, you're wrong. Look at it this way. Now what do you see? And she feels really, really empowered now, feels ready to roll and go forward, and doesn't really need their support because she's one step ahead. She gets what they do not, and she feels really strong and confident in that, which is amazing to see. Because she knows exactly how to handle those standards, to bring it back to her purpose, to bring it back to her impact on her colleagues and on her kids. And that, my friends, is actually what she cares about. And that is why she continues to be motivated to measure her impact using the standards. It's a game changer. It flips it. But you need to learn how to do that. And it can be really hard to get that information, particularly if you're just Googling it or Facebooking it. I get it. The other question that leads me to is, why are you bothering with teacher accreditation in the first place? This is really, really important. For some of you, it could be a requirement at university. I've got to do my GTPA. I've got to get evidence. It could be that the emails come to say, hey, you got to get proficiency or you can't be a teacher anymore, and you're feeling the pressure there. It could be that you feel ready for a challenge, or your colleagues have said to you, I reckon you're HA or lead. Why don't you go and explore those things? Or it could just be that you're really curious about your practice and you want to reflect using the standards so you can be part of this celebration that's going on here, be part of understanding what's working really well in your practice and what you need to do next, because you're a passionate educator who loves making a positive impact. You want to feel confident that that's what you're doing, and you want to know when you're wasting your time on things in class that are not fitting the bill, because you don't have any time to waste. Which one are you? What do you resonate with? Let me know in the comments below. Because as I've said already, if you frame accreditation around, I've got to do it, there's this paperwork, I'm being threatened with, if I don't get it done, I'm going to lose my job. Can you already feel the negativity and pressure that you're putting on yourself immediately? You choose to see it that way, and you don't have to choose. I get it. If you've left it to the last minute and proficiency is knocking on the door, there's not a lot you can do. Same with GTPA. But you don't need to stay in that place in your mind where you allow that pressure to sit with you. Instead, you can choose to say, I've got to do this. Okay, how do I do this in a way that empowers me and makes it meaningful and purposeful for me as a growing educator? Stay in that space, and trust me, it will fly much faster and with far more ease every single time. You are not completing paperwork to prove yourself. Never, ever allow that to be the case. Use the accreditation process to empower your practice and fill you with confidence. How can you do that? What question would you type into Google to do that? Because if you type in, how do I build a teacher portfolio, you can see how none of this stuff is going to appear in Google at all whatsoever. Okay? The whole point of your teacher portfolio is reflective practice. It's validating yourself. It's growing in confidence. It's being able to show that you're having a great impact. Know when you're not. Increase your impact by learning new things and making a bigger difference in the world of education, which is what we actually care about, right? The other day, I was doing lots of calls with potential new coaching members. And a couple of times the question came up of, is it even worth it? You know, do you think I should bother? And I want to take a moment to touch on that idea of, is it worth it? Because in every single instance, I basically said, well, that depends on what worth it's bringing to you. Why do you think there is worth in the certificate? Is that what it is? Do you need the certificate for validation? Or is it a process that you would love to learn so that you can feel confident about your practice and move forward? So if you're sat here wondering whether it's worth going through the process of HA or lead, because the other two are mandated, I want you to think about what worth you've attached to that and ask those questions of yourself instead. Because if we can connect all of this to your goal and your purpose, it will be a much easier experience. I believe I've said that a few times. But do you know how to stay in that purpose? Do you know how to stay motivated and empowered whilst you go through this process? What do you need to support you to stay in that place as you build a teacher portfolio? A portfolio that feels amazing, purposeful, is full of evidence of your impact, just makes you shine off the page, off the screen, because that's what I want for you. That's what you deserve. And students who come and work with me in the evidence engine often rock up covered in this ick of, oh, I've got to do it by this date, and I've got this stuff in a box, and I really need to know how to lay it out. And they're obsessed about word count and layout and templates for evidence. Now, in the evidence engine, I give you step-by-step guides to create evidence of impact, to answer all of these questions. What I do not do is give you the recipe for highly accomplished lead, proficient, or graduate. I give you something much better than that. I give you all the tools you need to write powerful practice, write powerful evidence against any standard, against any career stage, for the whole of your career. And of course, there are lots of examples of HA and lead and proficient and graduate in there. But what color should the font be? How do I label it? What's the word count? How many artifacts? Yes, we talk about that, but it's this much of the conversation, because that's the last piece of the puzzle. That's the cognitive load that's dealt with by the teaching authority that's assessing you. And it's slightly different in every state or territory. What I do with my coaching is empower you to see things in a way that really inspires your practice. And it's really fun, I tell you right now. So what can you do right now? If you've been listening to this, what's been coming up for you? What can you do right now? What one thing can you do this minute to help you get some clarity? Well, I think it should be obvious that asking the question, how do I build a teacher portfolio, isn't going to get you the answers that you need. So what I want you to do is work out what the real questions are that you need to have answered. So I want you to grab some Post-it notes, and I want you to put a timer on your phone for 3 minutes. And I want you to sit there for 3 minutes with the Post-it notes and a pen. And I want you to write one question on every Post-it note, some of which may have come up from this podcast episode, some of which may be sat deep within you. I want you to think about how you want to feel and how you feel about this process now, and what questions are coming up for you. So grab your phone, grab some Post-it notes, hit pause on this podcast, go do that now. Did it? Have you done it? Great. In the comments below this video, share some of your questions with us. I guarantee when you look, you will see that other people have similar questions, and you might be able to then, a bit like whole class answer, question and answer, see some questions that you haven't considered. So please share your questions, help each other out in the comments below this video. What is it that you really need to be looking for, either in the Reflective Teacher podcast search, on the Edufolios website, or in Google? What should you be looking for? What is really missing when you say, how do I build a teacher portfolio? The second thing you can do right now is come and sign up for my webinar. I'm running a couple only in the next week or so be quick. I hope you're listening to this as it airs. Just head to edufolios.org/webinar and get your ticket Bring your questions that you've put on your post-it notes. Bring them and ask them, because there will be a live Q&A session in those webinars, okay? And that webinar is all about the 3 sneaky secrets I can share with you to help remove some of these barriers that we've already touched on today. And if you're so beyond the point where you just want a few top-level answers and you want to dive deeply, then just head to edufolios.org/yes right now and see what happens. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, if you've been coming along to my webinars and you're ready to take the next step, edufolios.org/yes right now is probably the place you want to rock up to. Go and have a look. I hope this podcast episode gave you something to think about when it comes to how you are approaching building your teacher portfolio. Don't forget to share all your thoughts in the comments and help each other out. It's shared learning. It's great. A great way to accelerate our learning by sharing our thoughts and our questions. That's it for this week. I'll see you next time on the Reflective Teacher Podcast, or maybe in a webinar. Take care.